Masechet Nazir daf tet vav, and we will plan to complete the second perek with this daf. Mishnah. Hareni Nazir lichsheyehe li ben v'nazir me'a yom. Someone says, I'm going to be a Nazir when I have a son. And in addition, he also takes upon himself another Nazirut, well, for himself, that will be for 100 days. This is a variation of Mishnah we saw previously. Now, so what's that going to happen? Nolad lo ben, ad shibim lo hifsid kelum. Lachar shibim soter shibim, she'en tiglachat pachot misheloshim yom. So the way it would work is that he has no idea when he's going to have a son, so therefore, even though he made that vow first, he begins his 100-day Nazirut first. And then once he has a child, he will put that on pause and do the 30 days for his child, and then he will resume the one for the 100 days for himself. So this Mishnah is coming to tell us that if the child is born from day 1 up to day 70, then he has not lost any time, because all told, if he did it back to back, it will be 100 days and 30 days, so 130 days altogether. And therefore, even if he has to bifurcate the 100 days and do up to 70, so that's fine. He will not lose anything because he'll do 70, and then he'll do the other 30, and that'll get to day 100, and then he'll still have 30 left over from the 100, and that'll get to day 130. So it really makes no difference. However, if the child is born after the 70th day, for example, 80th day, he does 80 days, child is born, and now he does a Nazirut of 30 days, so now he's at 110. Now, although he has only 20 more days of the 100, so he'll be Nazir till day 130, here's the problem. He only has 20 days of hair growth, because he shaved and brought his korbanot after the 30 for his son. And therefore, he's going to have to add an extra 10 days more. And so that's what it says, soter shiv'im. If you take this literally, and some Rishonim do, there's many interpretations of this Mishnah, say that, yeah, he has to go all the way back to the beginning. But it doesn't seem reasonable that he would lose out all the 70. And so others interpret soter shivim simply means that he doesn't have all of the benefit of that first period that he had, right? So up to 70, he gets all the benefit. More than 70, he's going to have to add more days to get up to 30 hair growth, because you cannot shave your hair with less than 30 days. All right, that is the Mishnah. Now, although we did interpret the previous Mishnah, which was according to the Rosh, who said that when you have 30 and 30, one for himself and one for his son, and it's interrupted, so then you do, let's say, 20 for yourself, 30 for your son, don't shave yet, and then do the last 10 and shave and bring all the korbanot at the end of 60 days. And that was an interpretation of that. That interpretation of that Mishnah will be difficult to reconcile with this Mishnah, and you kind of have to jump through hoops to explain this Mishnah. Therefore, I'm switching gear and explaining this Mishnah according to the Rambam, and that would mean that in the previous Mishnah, it would mean that you would have to, if there was only 10 days since you would shave after the 30 days for the son, and then if there's only 10 days left, you'd have to add more days in order to have yet another 30. So that's probably the best way to interpret this Mishnah most clearly, and fit the previous Mishnah with this one. All right, there are many interpretations of these Mishnayot, and so I'm going to pick that one for now. All right, Amar Rav, Yom Shivim. It doesn't make that much difference for this for the Gemara. Amar Rav, Yom Shivim ole lekan ulekan tenan. So Rav saying that the 70th day itself can actually do double duty, because since he did 70 days, and the child was born on that very day, and so in the morning he was a Nazir, 4 counts for the 100 days, and so Miksat Hayom Kikulo, part of the day is like the whole thing, and then he starts his Nazirut on the day that the child is born, which is also happens to be the 70th day. That also counts as number 1 for the 30, which means he can shave for the son's Nazirut on day 99, right? 70 to 99, including the 70th and 99th day, is 30 days. And then he can then continue, and actually he'll be done at day 129. So Rav is saying it's actually a good deal. He saves. He saves. All right. Now we're going to have the challenge, Rav, from our Mishnah. First from the Resha. Tena nolad lo ad shivim shana lo hifsid kilum. Our Mishnah said that if the child is born anywhere until 70 days, he hasn't lost anything. But hold on, Rav. If you think that the 70th day does double duty, then not only does he not lose, he actually gains a day. So it should not say not lose, it should say gain. And actually he would gain even if it was any time before the 70, that day would do double duty. So we answer, you're right, we're not being exacting when we said 70, we really could have said 71. And because on day 70, he would even gain a day. And the reason why it says 70 in the Resha is because of the continuation of the Mishnah, where it says after 70, then that's going to break. He's going to lose out on the extra days that he does, that he keeps as a Nazirut past 70. So that's why in the Resha it says 70, even though it's not quite exact. All right, we'll accept that, but now let's check the Sefa. Did the Sefa really have to say 70? Is that exact? Tashema misefa nolad achar shivim soter shivim. My achar achar. So in the Sefa it says if the child is born after 70, then you're going to end up losing out days from that first period that was 70 plus whatever. So now this is actually now a challenge to Rav, because that's not true. If it's born after 70, what's after 70? 71, right? According to Rav, that 71st day will do double duty and count as the 71st day and also as the first day of the next one, which means he'll do from 71 till 100, and then he'll have only 29 days left. And so he's perfectly fine. He can complete it in the same amount, 29 days left. 29 is not enough. You have to add one more because you need 30 days of hair. Well, that'll end on 130. So actually, he's not losing out if it's 71, right? That would be a perfect amount. That would be exactly end up at 130. So therefore, it's not true that it's exactly 70. So we'll answer for Rav to say, what does it mean achad? When it says after, it doesn't mean one day after. It means achad, 2 days after. If it's 72, then 72 can count for both. Great. And so that he'll end up at 101, but he needs another 28 days. 28 days is not enough. So I have to add 30 days. He's going to end at 131. So it's only once it gets to 72, that is when he's losing out on that extra day that he was a Nazir. And so we can interpret achar to mean 2 days after, not literally immediately after 70. Okay, Gemara asks, Aval achar mamash mai, and what if it was day 71? Hachinami de la satar, then you would agree, right, that he doesn't lose out any days. Hachi ma'irya detane nolad ad shivim lo hifsid kelum. Afilo achar shivim name ha'amat lo satar. But then it doesn't make sense. Why would you pick 70, then say 71, right? Why are you rounding it out in the Sefa, right? Why say if he was born until 70, he didn't lose anything in the Resha? You should say if he was born after 71, he doesn't lose anything. And that should be in the Resha and the Sefa. Rather, you can't say afterwards means 72. After 70 means 71. That's the break-off point, and therefore this does not actually fit according to Rav. V'chen matnitin lerav shema mina. This phrase, v'chen matnitin lerav, all it usually means to say it means, and this also is a challenge for Rav, and that's what we conclude, that it's going to be very difficult to reconcile Rav with the statement of our Mishnah, because our Mishnah seems to assume that 70 only counts for the previous. When the child is born, you have to start from day 71, and that will go from 71 till 100, and then you have 30 more days, and that's fine. That would be the maximum that you can have before, in which you would not lose days. Even if you have just 71, then the next day, then when the child is born, you have to start at 72, then you end up at 101, then you have to go to 131. and you lose days. So the Mishnah is in fact a challenge according to Rav. It doesn't mean that Rav is wrong, right? Rav can hold his own. It's just that the Mishnah will not agree with him. Okay, V'Rav, Keman Amar Lishmate. So Rav, which Tana are you following? Sometimes we do say that Rav himself has the status of a Tana. He's kind of in between, and so we can argue. But we would like to find a Tana, if possible, that Rav agrees with. And so here, there's one candidate number one. Ilema ke'Abba Shaul ditnan. In the following, it's actually Tosefta in Moed Katan. Abba Shaul is going to talk about laws of mourning. Hakober et meto shiloshem kodem laregel batla mimenu gezerat shiv'a. If someone buries their relative 3 days or more before a holiday, before one of the shalosh regalim. So batla mimenu gezerat shiv'a, then or any yom tov, then he doesn't. Then it breaks the 7, right? Even though generally someone will be in mourning for 7 days, as long as he did days 1, 2, and 3, and then if day 4 or 4, 5, or 6 are Yom Tov, then that breaks the 7. He doesn't have to sit Shiv'ah anymore. He doesn't have to, not wear shoes or all the other restrictions of 7. Okay, we follow this halakha today as well, although today we don't, even if someone did only 1 day, if they sat just for 1 day and then the holiday comes, it breaks even the 3. But according to this statement, the first 3 are much more severe than the rest of the 7, so you need to have at least that first 3. Okay, now this Baraita continues. Shemona yamim kodem laregel, ba'atlamenu gezerat sheloshim u'mutar lesaper erev haregel. If the person already sat Shiv'ah, and already the 8th day started before the Yom Tov comes, then since he already did the Shiv'ah, it's not going to break the Shiv'ah. Instead, it will break the 30-day mourning period in which the mourner is not allowed to take a haircut. And so because the holiday came, so the joy of the holiday counteracts the sadness of the mourning, and the person can take a haircut, shave, before the holiday begins in honor of the Yom Tov. However, if he does not take that opportunity to take a haircut before the holiday in honor of the holiday, then he loses his chance, and he was not allowed to take a haircut, not during the holiday and not after the holiday. During the holiday, Chol HaMoed, right, is also a problem because that's the gezerah. You should have done it before, and even after the holiday, when generally people are allowed, since you didn't shave for the holiday, so you didn't. That's the whole point of breaking the 30, is to show that we're so happy for the 30 for the Yom Tov. But obviously, you weren't so happy for the Yom Tov because you didn't take a haircut. So that's why you were allowed to take a haircut for the holiday, after the holiday, and there's no point in allowing the person to take a haircut anymore. So as did before. All that is Tanakama. Abba Shaul Omer, afilu lo siper kodam haregel motar saper achar haregel, כשם שמצוות שלושה מבטלת גזירת שבעה, כך מצוות שבעה מבטלת גזירת שלושים. Abba Shaul is more lenient. And he says, even if he didn't, for whatever reason, take a haircut before the Yom Tov begins, he is still allowed to take a haircut after Yom Tov ends. Why? Because it's a parallel law. Just like when the Yom Tov comes, if you already did 3 days, then the Yom Tov will break the 7. Breaks the 7 for everything, right? And now you could wear leather shoes and shower. It doesn't mean you have to, even if you didn't happen to not wear leather shoes before the holidays. So you can still wear leather shoes at any point. So too, misvat shib'am batel gezrat shloshim. So too, if you did the 7 already, and the Yom Tov comes, it cancels the 30. That's it. You are not a mourner of 30 days anymore. So you can shave, and it's good to shave for the holiday. But if you didn't, you can still shave afterwards. Okay. Now, although the text of the Baraita shows Abba Shaul disagreeing only about one point about the shaving before, if you didn't shave before, you could still do it after. It's evident from the Gemara that he actually argued on yet another point, that it doesn't even have to be the 8th day. Even if it's the actual 7th day, Erev Yom Tov, is the seventh day of mourning, we count that seventh day to be the last day of mourning and also the first day of Shiloshim. Since it's also the first day of Shiloshim and Yom Tov is going to be the next day, so it's the last day of Shivim and first day of Shiloshim. Since he started the Shiloshim, the holiday comes and breaks the Shiloshim. Don't have to wait till the 8th day. So we ask, so why does he think that the Shiloshim is broken by the holiday, even if he just finished the Shiv'ah that very day? It must be because the seventh day does double duty, counts as the last day of the 7 and the first day of Shiloshim. As long as you started the Shiloshim, the Yom Tov will break it. And there you go. Now we have a source, Rav, who also says that the 70th day works double duty. In the case of a Nazir, and agrees with Abba Shaul, who says the 7th day here works double duty for the mourner. Okay, now we reject this. This is not a proof because maybe Abba Shaul would only allow a day to count double duty regarding Avelut of Shiv'ah, because Avelut of Shiva is midrabanan. Mideoraita, only the first days of Avelut are deoraita, and after that is derabanan. Since it's derabanan, it's more lenient, that's why it can work double duty. But Nazir, that's a vow that you take that has status of deoraita. Abba Shaul would not necessarily use that leniency to count one day as double duty for Nazir. Therefore, this is no proof that Abba Shaul is the one that Rav agrees with. So, second candidate, he agrees with Rabbi Yosef. The Tanya. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, Sheshachatu v'zerku aleha basheni shela, ve'achar kach ra'ata, Arezo enah ochelet upetura milasot pesach sheni. Okay, this is going to be from the realm of tum'ah for a zava. If a woman sees blood one day, she is a zava for the rest of that day. If she sees blood for 2 days, then she's going to be tameh both of those days, and she will have to go to the mikveh. Now, shomeret yom keneged yom means that she saw blood one day. Okay, now she has to wait the second day to make sure that she sees no blood the second day. So if she saw only for 1 day, then she observes herself to make sure there's no blood the second day, and she can go to the mikveh at any time during that day, and as long as she doesn't see blood till the end of the day, when the day ends and becomes night, she is tahor. Okay, this is called zava ketana. It's a minor one. Only if she sees 3 days in a row blood, only then is she a zava gedola, and then she has to wait 7 clean days and bring korbanot. That's a big deal. Okay, so now we have this woman. She was tameh 1 day. All right, and now the second day, she is waiting, and the second day happens to be the 14th of Nisan, when you bring Korban Pesach. Now, because on the second day she's still Time'ah, but she's waiting. So she can go to the mikveh that day, and she's hoping she won't see any blood. By the way, all this is when she's not expecting to see the blood of Nida. During those 7 days, when she's expecting to see Nida blood, if she sees Nida blood, then she's Nida. When it's not those 7 days, then any blood she sees will make her a Zava. If it's only 1 day, it's still Zava Ketana. So she's hoping that she won't see any more blood on that day, on the 14th of Nisan, and that way, when it gets nighttime, she'll be able to participate and eat Korban Pesach. The thing is, someone has to make the Korban Pesach for her. Now, it's okay, even though she's Tameh, she can join into a group and ask the messenger of that group to have her in mind, so that at night, when she becomes Tahor, she will be able to eat it. So, Shachatu, so they slaughtered the sacrifice, and they sprinkled the blood on her behalf on the second day of her Tum'ah. Now, if she didn't see any blood, she would be totally fine, then she could eat the meat that night. But if she did see blood after she went to the mikveh, then she cannot eat that night, because now she's tameh the next day, and the next day she has to wait and see if she's going to see blood again. However, even though she cannot eat the korban, nevertheless, she does not have to bring Pesach Sheni. Why? Someone who was Tameh the entire day and had no chance of becoming Tahor that day or that night, they cannot participate at all in the first Pesach. They have to bring Pesach Sheni. But because she was seemingly tahor for a portion of that day, meaning from the time she went to the mikveh until she saw blood, that part of the day she was tahor, so that when they so that the korban that was brought for her on that day is a valid korban. Happens to be she can't eat it because she then became tameh later in the day, and so at night she can't eat it, but it was valid enough. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Yosef. So here's what we derive. My tamad Rabbi Yosef, la mishum dekasav al miksat hayom kekulo. It must be that Rabbi Yosef thinks that the reason why this Korban Pesach is a valid Korban Pesach for her, even though she became Tameh later in the day, is because we say part of the day is like the whole day. And since she was Tehorah part of the day, from the time she went to the mikveh until she actually saw that second stain of blood, she was tahor part of the day, and that part of the day is like the whole day. And so whenever they made the korban for her, it was a valid korban. So so you see, just like Rabbi Yosef says, a day can have double status. That part of the day she was tahor, that's the whole day, and also part of the day she was timhe'ah. And so the day works double duty. And so that works with Rav, who also says the 70th day for Nazir. It works double duty also for the first of the next 30. Okay, then we challenge that. Mimai v'dilma mishum dekasabar mikan ul haba hu metameh. No, maybe the reason the Yosef thinks it's okay is because he thinks that the impurity is only from now on, from the moment she sees the blood until and in the future. That's when she's tameh. But the fact that she went to the mikveh or beforehand in the morning, let's say, and she became tahor, so she is tahor that part of the day, and the tum'ah is only from then on. And that's why she was tahor. Let's say it worked out the schedule. She was tahor when they made the Korban Pesach. So at that time she was tahor. So you have to say that part of the day is like the whole day, as long as within that part of the day they did Korban Pesach, and then later in the afternoon at 5 p.m. she saw blood again, and only from 5 p.m. on she's tameh, and that would explain easily why the Korban Pesach was good, she was tahor at that time, and why she can't eat it, because she's then tameh afterwards. But it doesn't mean that the part of the day is like the whole day. Okay, so therefore Rav is not necessarily like Rabbi Yosef. But then we try to save it. Does Rabbi Yosef really think that the tumah is only from the point of her seeing blood the second day and on? Vatanya. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Zav Baal Sheteriot, Sheshachatu וזרקו עליו בשביעי, וכן שומרת יום כנגד יום ששחטו וזרקו עליה, ואחר כך ראו, אף על פי שמטמאים משכן ומושב למפרע, פטורים מלעשות פסח שני. We have a braita of Rabbi Yosef himself that talks about a Zav and Zava. We're more interested in the Zava, but it's an equivalent case with a Zav, a male, who saw twice discharges, abnormal discharges, and so that makes him a tameh, zav gadol. Even for a male, just seeing two makes him a zav gadol. And then they do korban pesach for him on his 7th day. He counted 7 clean days, and on the 7th day, he's hoping that he won't see any more. And the same would be true for a woman who sees once or twice, and now she has to wait only 1 day. For both of them, they make the Korban Pesach. Someone does it for them on the day that they hope to get clean after they went to the mikveh, and then on that very day, later on in the day, they see blood, and now it's evident that they are tameh. They won't be able to eat the korban, even though they cause tum'ah for anything that they sat on retroactively. Zav and Zava have this high level of imparting tum'ah, not only things that they touch, even if they sit on a cushion, something all the way underneath that's holding their weight will also become tameh. And that's not true. That's true not only from the time that they see blood on that day and on, but retroactively, even from the time that they went to the mikveh that day. So even though they're actually retroactively tameh, so they're tameh the whole day, nevertheless, they don't have to bring Korban Pesach. They don't have to bring Pesach Sheni because it counts. So what you see from here is that Rabbi Yosef does not think that they are tameh only from the time that they see blood and onwards. Actually, they are tameim. We'll talk about her because that's the main point. She is tameh retroactively from the whole day. So therefore, it's not because she was tahor at the time of the Korban Pesach, but rather because that day serves double duty, because for part of the day she was tehorah, therefore we consider it that she was tehorah the whole day, and Korban Pesach works for her. Although also, part of the day she was teme'ah, and so she is teme'ah, and she remains a zava. And yes, one day can work double duty according to the Rabbi Yosef, and therefore Rav can be like the Rabbi Yosef. And so now we say not necessarily. Midrabanan. When it says that she makes things that she sits on tameh retroactively, that could be only midrabanan as an extra stringency. But on the doraita level, she does not on doraita level. It's only from then on. And so it's not because the day works double duty, but because when they did Korban Pesach, she was tahor, and not because part of the day is like the whole day. And so therefore, it's not Rabbi Yosef is not necessarily the same as Rav. And in fact, hachinami mistabera. In fact, it seems to make more sense that on the doraita level, she is tahor during that window. That she is tahor medoraita, right? Medoraita. If you think she's teme'ah medoraita and lemafreya is teme'ah, amai peturin milasot pesach sheni. Then why would she not have to bring pesach sheni? The fact that she does not have the pesach sheni works for her evidently means that then during that window, she was tahor midoraita, and that's why the Korban Pesach worked for her. And this retroactive tumah is only midrabanan, and so we do not say miksat hayom kekulo. The day does not do double duty. And sorry, this is not like Rav. All right, but then we change again. Leolam emalach tumah deoraita. Tehom deziva hitiru. No, I can even say that the tumah works retroactively midoraita, and so therefore midoraita she was retroactively tameh since the whole day, even from the time of dipping in the mikveh until the time that she's blood. However, it still works that that the Korban Pesach works for her. Why? Because of a different concept called tehom. Tumah of tehom is tumah from an unknown source that we're not sure about. Generally, this refers to a grave, tumat met, but it's deep underground. We're not sure where it is or what it is. And here we're applying it also to this zava that as she didn't know what her status was after she went to the mikveh until she became a zava. So still kind of unknown source of what her status is in terms of tumah. So even though on a deoraita level she will have been teme'ah retroactively, nevertheless, for the sake of Korban Pesach only, we say, since it was an unknown status, we permit this Korban Pesach that was made on her behalf. And therefore, we conclude that it could be that on a doraita level, in fact, she is teme'ah retroactively, even on a doraita level. But no matter what, there is no proof from here that Rabbi Yosef considers this day to do double duty, that she is both tahor because part of the day she was tahor, and she's teme'ah because part of the day she was teme'ah, and therefore he agrees with Rav. That's not true. The reason why she can bring Korban Pesach is because a special law of Korban Pesach, that if you bring Korban Pesach because of an unknowable impurity, then the Korban Pesach counts. And so even if she's teme'ah the whole day, it turns out she had turned out to have been teme'ah the whole day, retroactively the Korban Pesach still works, and not because part of the day when she was tehora is considered like the whole day. And so we do not have a proof necessarily that Rabbi Yosef follows Rav. Now, even though we just concluded that Rabbi Yosef thinks that the deoraita tum'ah for this Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, when she sees blood later in the day, retroactively makes her Teme'ah the whole day, and we concluded that was on a Deoraita level. But that was just one possibility, and now we're going to go back to the possibility before we rejected it, that Rabbi Yosef thinks that it goes back retroactively only on the Drabanan level, and in fact on a Deoraita level she is only Teme'ah from the time she sees blood and on, and that means in between period she is Tehorah, and therefore part of the day is like a whole day, and that's why Korban Pesach works. And in that case, Rabbi Yosef would be on the side of Rav. And so we're going to go back to that and say, Va'af Rabbi Oshaya. In other words, this Va'af could actually be could have followed immediately after the proof was a good proof, even though in the meantime someone put in a rejection. But this statement at some point followed when it was a good proof. Okay, Rabbi Oshaya agrees with the statement of Rabbi Yosef that when a Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom sees blood, she saw blood on the first day, she goes to mikveh in the morning on the second day, she sees blood later on the second day, and all that happens to be the 14th of Nisan, that anything she sat on before that during the day, retroactively is tameh, only the Rabbanan, Bandoraita, she's good. How do we know Rabbi Yosha agrees with that interpretation of Rabbi Yosef? Detanya, Rabbi Oshaya Amar, הרואה זב בשביעי שלו סותר את שלפניו, ואמר לרבי יוחנן לא נסתור אלא יומו. A man who is a zav gadol, he saw Zav 2-3 times in a row, and now he waited 7 clean days. On the very seventh day, when he was hoping that now he would be clean, he sees once again an abnormal discharge. So it breaks all the days that he counted. According to the Rabbi Oshaya, that's it. He has to start counting all the way back from another 7 clean days. However, Rabbi Yochanan says no, only that day is ruined, and he just has to count one more clean day after that. We ask about Rabbi Yochanan, Ma nafshach isatar kulhu satar ila satar lo nister velo yomo. It doesn't make sense. If it's going to break a day, well then it should break the whole series, right? You need 7 days in a row. And if it doesn't break that day for whatever reason, then if it doesn't break 7 days, it should not break even one day. The days are a unit. They have to be together. You can't see 6 days, clean days, and then skip one and then see another one. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for Zavat, doesn't work for Zav. Ela ema lo nistor velo yomo. No, rather what Rabbi Yochanan meant to say is, let it not break any days, not the 7, and not even that very day. Okay, why would Rabbi Yochanan say that? Must be because he says, Miksat hayom kikulo, since in the beginning of the day means the nighttime. After the night, he didn't see anything. Therefore, we consider that a full 7th day, and even though later on in the 7th day he sees something, he can still continue counting. Now, V'amar le Rabbi Oshaya, who disagreed with Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, nevertheless commented on Rabbi Yochanan's opinion and said, Rabbi Yosef ka'e kevatech, de'amar mikanu laba metameh. He noted that, you, Rabbi Yochanan, happen to agree with Rabbi Yosef, because he also says that when a person is waiting to be tahor and they see blood, that tumah is only from then on, but the morning before that, they are considered tahor. So and miksat hayom kekulo. So there you go. Now, if you ask, how did Rabbi Yosef mafreya damar? Didn't Rabbi Yosef also say no, that the person is tameh lemafreya? My lemafreya midrabanan. It's evident from this from this statement of Rabbi Yoshaya that Rabbi Yoshaya considered Rabbi Yosef's statement that person is tameh lemafreya to be only retroactively cause things to be tameh midrabanan. But on a doraita level, where they were tahor and only become tameh once they see blood from then on. That's why the person who is waiting 7 clean days, as long as they were clean in the morning, that's it, they're clean they're considered clean the rest of the day, even if a new tumah happens to start later in the day, and miksatem kekulo. If you say miksatem kekulo, now Rabbi Yoshua himself does not agree with it, but he does think that Rabbi Yochanan thinks that, well, Rabbi Yochanan does think that, and he also thinks that Rabbi Yosef thinks that, so therefore Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yosef would be on the same side as Rav. All right, good. So that concludes that. Now we just have one last question for Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef mikti sabar miksatem kekulo zava gemura demaita korban hechi mashkachad la. According to Rabbi Yosef, how could we agree? We'll agree, fine. He says that part of a day is like the whole day. Now the question is, how could you ever have a zimura zava gedola who would have to bring a korban? In order to be a zava, you have to see blood for 3 days in a row. But he just said, so a woman sees blood on the first day. Now on the second day, she's going to see blood. But according to you, no, as long as she was tehorah the beginning of the day, then that's it. She's out of the woods. And the fact that she sees blood again the second day, that's a new series. So that even if she sees blood during the Zava period, those 11 days, not during the Da period. Even if she sees blood every day is a new day. It's like Groundhog Day all over again, and it's not connected to the day before. And so she can never actually see 3 days in a row. Right? Because as long as she sees at some point in the middle of the day, the first half of the day counts for her clean day. And then she's good. And so she can never be a zava gedola. We have 2 answers. Maybe she's actually bleeding continuously for 3 days straight. There is no break. If there's no break, then we can't count anything as miksat hayom kekulo. That's kind of far-fetched. Or a more possible scenario is that she sees blood around the time of sunset, so that she sees blood a little bit before sunset. That's going to count as the first day that she saw blood, and then she goes through from sunset until it gets dark. She's bleeding that whole time for whatever it is, half hour, and so therefore at the beginning of that day, she already stained, and so you can't say, and there is no miksat hayom kekulo, that part of the day she was tehorah. She was not tehorah at any part of the day. And let's say she goes for the rest of the day, she's just fine, but then, just before sunset, on the second day, she starts bleeding again, and into when it gets dark into the third day, and so then there was no point at the beginning of the second day or the beginning of the third day in which she was teme'ah at the beginning of those days, so you'd never get a chance to say miksat hayom kekulo. So that would be yet another case where you have a zava gedola. Turns out, according to this, that you would have be hard pressed to find a case that would be very, very common of a zava gedola, and that would be actually a great leniency if we followed that. All right, Hadran alach, hareni nazir, chazakim uberuchim.